Hello, this is part 2 of our RPM air gap versus Victor Jr. dyno test. Anyway, to give a little insight into this engine, it's a 4155 bore, or was it 4165? See you guys, I'm getting old, but I know for a fact it's a 325 stroke. All right, on a 8.2 deck 302 base block. This was built basically for road racing, not drag racing. I would have been more aggressive with everything else for drag, but I needed the torque coming out of the corners. And to have built a streetable 600 horsepower, eventually it ended up at 635, 636 on pump gas. That is very, very impressive. Okay, it didn't come in easy. You got a lot of things you got to pay attention, and the oiling system, everything else. We will follow up with other parts of the video, but there's one negative to this whole thing. I tried too hard on the wet sump system, and on the turns, the engine at Willow Springs started starving for oil pressure, and eventually that's narrowed down to the windage tray was really holding everything up. Instead of draining back down to the pickup, the windage tray was there catching everything. And anyway, I'll go through the details with that. But anyway, with this combination, Victor Jr. and Performer RPM, this could be duplicated. Imagine if you have an NA 600 horsepower pump gas engine out there. That is very impressive, even with all these fancy computer controlled cars today. And the videos I will forward. What else can I say about this whole combination? Oh, we were at 109 degrees engine temperature. If we would have had synthetic oil, 10 weight 30, and brought the temperature up to 185, 190, under 200, we'll exceed that 600 at this particular time. Eventually, with the correct header that we put on the engine, it went on to another dyno and made that. But I don't know, I'll see if I can find any kind of videotape on the last retest. Roughly 635, not bad. Okay, and here you go, guys. Enjoy. Here's the video of the dyno with the Performer RPM, air gap, and the Victor Jr. Before we proceed with the dyno videos, let's do a quick rundown on the engine. As you can see, here's a 325 stroke, Molnar rods, Ross pistons, 11.5 to 1. Okay, and there's the heads right there, and the clutch assembly. Anyway, it's strictly for road racing. There's a close-up of the clutch and the crank. It's not super lightened because it's basically a street motor, road race motor. Okay, it's built for longevity. There's the piston. It's got lateral gas ports there. Actually, for power, this ring pack would have been a lot higher if it was drag racing. But since it's a street car, the ring pack is kind of low for longevity and everything. Another angle to it. Plated for the camshaft valve to piston clearance. All okay. There's the Molnar rod and the piston assembled. As you can see, if this was drag racing, that would have been way high. Okay, there's a lot of crevice losses with this combination, but hey, it's a street engine. There's the Molnar rod. For the money, pretty doggone good. Crank. There's the valve train, T&D. As the heads are ported, as you can see, this is when I was priming the engine. And check and make sure I get oil all over the rocker arms. It's the block machining by QMP. Here's part of the oiling modification I will touch upon. Usually there's a freeze plug there, but I run a screw-in plug with a drilled orifice to lubricate the distributor. like so. Oil would hit that shaft and straight down to the distributor gear, especially for endurance type engine. That's a must do. And the oil pump, this one here is an adjustable one. That's what we use. This one I had to let go because there's a crack right there. So be careful when you install these things. Alright, a little thin on that side. Unlike the stocker type, a little bit more mass. This particular one here, so that's an issue that you got to look at. Alright, but it's an adjustable oil pump. Okay, word of caution. This steel MLS gasket, I will not say the company name, but there's a rivet on this area. If you don't look closely and you bolt the heads on the block, this rivet will hold the gasket from sealing. It'll lift up the head and not allow it to sit flush with the block of the deck. Okay, so you gotta worry about that and be aware. You got to check that. Here you go. When I grinded it off, removed it, this is on the right side, so that when you have the removed rivet, the head will now sit flush with the deck and seal up. Okay, here's another angle. Now there's the block with the MLS gasket in it, and right there as well. Okay, so it's built real nice, and it's nothing fancy. It's just a well thought out, put together engine. There's the bottom end, 4-bolt main, and when you look closely, the head bolts, after I check the stretch on it, I mark it with a red marker, okay, signifying that I already stretched that and it's on its final torque. If you don't see the red mark, come back and check it. It's a good way of keeping tabs on your work, because you can miss a pair or a bolt. Nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes. There's another picture of it. And the windage tray and a crank scraper. Aftermarket oil pump pickup. That's Mike Consolo from QMP, one of the nicest guys you could work with. Alright, and he did all the pulling, and he's very, very detail attentive, one of the nicest guys. Him and Brad Lagman at QMP are the greatest guys out there to be working with, especially for your projects. There's Jack. There's a Performer RPM manifold there, and then we're ready to put back the Victor Jr. There's the Dyno numbers, another one, and let me see, this is the comparison between the two. Alright, so let me see if I could bring that in closer. Nope. But there it is. I hope it's clear to everybody. Now this is the videotape of the pull with the Performer RPM without the divider plate removed. Okay, this is the best number, I think, if I could reference off correctly, that we made 555 or so on a pump gas Performer RPM. Remember, there's a dual plane, and when we went to a Victor Jr. we got close to 600 with a single plane, but here it is. Start playing down.
So right
starting
there,
to land down.
Yeah.
So 7200 is
72.
72 is the number.
Yeah, I mean 555, 7, 555, almost 556, 555.7. I mean, it's just right there.
Yeah.
So 7
what do you
to
think?
70, 72.
What do you think when we switch the intake to the Victor Jr. single plane? Should pick up 20, 15?
Well, it's going to pick up here, but you might lose down
Lose some.
here. 459 foot-pounds of torque.
Almost 460 foot-pounds of torque.
Yeah.
Some little monster.
325 stroke.
3.25 stroke.
Huh?
Holy shit.
Shit.
Not bad. Not bad for a hydraulic cam, huh?
No. Which, that's solid. Solid roll. All right, we'll swap intake.
Okay.
Here's the video of our run at QMP. We're discussing about the weight of the oil, which is pretty heavy. 2050. At this point in time, we didn't notice that the engine temperature is 109, much too cold for such a heavy oil. All right, so listen up, and this one of our peak numbers, and we didn't even mess with the timing or the jetting, just left it alone. Oh no, we did a little bit of timing changes, but we didn't pull the plugs because we were pressed for time. Switch to synthetic, but it gave a little bit more. And then you go with a 30.
Well, we got 2050.
That's a 2050. That's a heavy oil.
There's 20.
There's 2050 in this thing.
And then I'm squirting through the, you guys put the squirters on the thing?
2050 for ridiculous for this thing. So, yeah, you can go to like a 1030 probably.
1030, yeah.
And
Gain another.
it would, yeah, probably 8 horsepower.
How much?
Probably 8.
With synthetic.
We're knocking the door 600.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's see what 75.
Let's see what 75 or 76 does. Alright, so what are we going to do? 7600? Yeah, you can hear it. So then you go from number 15. So it's just laid over at 7,500. There you go, 588, and one more pull we did a 589. Given that the header's on the wrong size, but eventually, by the time we really tested this thing with the as designed header for this whole combination, it made 630. So there it is. Okay, this is on 11.3 compression, AFR head, strictly road racing engine. That's all. Okay, thank you very much. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. It was very informative, and the amazing part is the Victor Jr. really did not lose that much more. And I wish, time permitting, if we would have compared it to a Super Victor. But the truth of the matter is, I think it would have fell off at that point in time, because with a compression ratio of 11.3, it would have been too much of a manifold. Okay, compression is power, and you got to match all the components. Really, on the Victor Jr. with 11.3, I was skirting the bare maximum minimum on both sides. Okay, compression ratio and displacement and RPM. So, but otherwise, I was happy with the results. The doggone thing is, I mean, a lot of people brag of their 450, 500 horsepower built engine on pump gas. This is 600, mind you. Okay, and it didn't come in easy. Takes a lot of experience to get to that point and get that much power. And this is not going to be consuming oil. This is very tight. Like I said, it's a road racing engine. Now, coming back to the part one of this RPM
air gap versus Victor Jr. Like I stated, 650, this particular engine ran a 750, okay? And you could do the same thing if you had a 347, 363, or whichever one you might have, or even a diminutive 302, as long as you got compression, 11.5 to 1, or even bare minimum 10.5. You could get away with a 650, 700 on a air gap on the street. Granted again that you have 355 gears, all right? Just remember, the more compression you have, the more, should we say, it's able to take on a bigger intake, bigger cylinder heads, and really, truthfully, you can get aggressive. Now you start to wonder why we run two Dominators, two 1050s, 1150s on a small block 400 cubic incher, making close to 1,000 horsepower NA. That is impressive. Okay, so compression is the key. If you have a 9-to-1 302 or 9-to-1 347 and you try to run a 750, you're a little bit falling off the cliff there. Okay, when you build a 347, 302 or 308, 40 over, 30 over, 310, if you don't have the compression, it's kind of dicey. All right, compression is key for whatever you, I mean, I've seen people build, oh my gosh, 408, like I said repeatedly, 408 AC Cobra, and a friend of mine got spanked by a 347 with a true 11.5 to 1 compression. It was not even close. So anyway, if you do get up on the compression for street, if you really play it well with your combustion chamber, you get real innovative in how you go about tackling that combustion chamber, doing all sorts of nice modifications there. I can't really say too much. You can get away with 12.3, 12.5 on pump gas. Okay, you play with your lobe center, and I got comp cams and especially Iski helping me out in that regard, and we're able to pull away on a fairly light car, not really super light, but light car, 28.50, and get away with 12.3, 12.5. Okay, especially with them 408 or 421, 426, 432. The bigger the cubic inches, the less it has to work hard. So do that, up the compression. If you got a Fox body or some kind of AC Cobra in there, push the compression on the street and you will be happy with the result. Okay, just something. I mean, I know everybody tries to get the most power out of their combination. Oh, who doesn't? A lot of people go, oh, well, I'm a pump gas, I'm happy with 400. No, you're happy with 450, 500, or maybe 600. Truth saying, okay? Anyway, please subscribe to Ben Alameda Racing, share and like, and so we can keep this going. All right, guys, take care. Oh, happy July 4th to everybody. Bye-bye.